Good morning, everyone, again. In this first panel, we're going to share with you our experience in applying artificial intelligence in this state assembly, and it has started by forming a committee. We created a program called IA.LES, that is the artificial intelligence of the assembly. And then we formed a committee that's a management committee and a strategic committee that is formed by public servants from the House, staff at the House, and they are part of the team of Marcelo Santos. Okay, now I can do it. I couldn't read that. So, well, our experience, as Congressman Marcelo Santos said before at the beginning, our digital transformation for us to be able to implement the IA.LES program, it started 7 years ago. Our first big innovation project was one called IA.LES Digital, in which we changed all the procedures, the physical processes and procedures from physical into digital, and strategically we chose to transform the legislative area, and we had an event like this one. We invited all the other branches of the state, and from the beginning there was an integration in a way that the legislature, the audits court, the public prosecutor's office started to send their messages with the bills electronically. The same way the Congress people internally started to issue their bills electronically from 2018 on. Then we had review IA.LES to consolidate the laws focused on transparency, and now we have a new step that is IA.LES. But what artificial intelligence can do here? We're not talking only about technical capacity. We're talking about delivering things with added value. And the application of artificial intelligence in the assembly is how we can use that responsibly and safely and in a transparent way and public value. So we've been taking care, Federico, from the State Assembly of São Paulo. We want to apply that in a very, very cautious way. We started by forming a committee, and this committee has planned strategies and defined guidelines for the AI to be applied in a safe way, effectively. Then IA.LES has some pillars: governance, institutional responsibility, information security, human curation, and it's very important to register here that everything we do here is reviewed by humans, because AI will not replace people, it will support and augment their delivery power. So we're focused on this project, IA.LES, with human supervision and with transparency. So all the information made available, the results from the things delivered by AI, they are traceable, so the source is safe. So IA.LES is not only a technology, it's also method, governance, qualification, cultural change. I remember that a year ago when we started talking about artificial intelligence, some colleagues said, no, don't do that, it will replace me, I'll no longer be important here. today we can see, and we have this idea that AI is not replacing anyone. It will only amplify, augment our capabilities. It will make the one that has the knowledge to deliver more with value and better delivery.
The committee is discussing policies and norms, prioritizing processes, what actions concerning AI we might take. This is one of the meetings that we had with an international committee. This happened yesterday. We are proposing evaluation, training, security recommendations. The committee will establish strategy, and after strategy, we then go into operational so that we can implement effectively what we understood in the committee as a priority. The first deliverables that we'll get started on, focusing on AI, are these tools we're calling IA.LES Play, which is a platform where everything that happens in the taped sessions will be available to the population, transcribed with AI will transcribe and we'll have people review. We have this tool called IA.LES GPT, which will give support to the state representative and his employees, and they will be trained and curated for this. We're not just going to give them a generic tool like ChatGPT. We want to give them something that has knowledge of the internal ongoings of the assembly. They know our legislation. Another tool will be the IA.LES Explains. This is a platform that we understood as a priority to be delivered. It's the translation of the projects that are ongoing and the laws that are at work right now into simple and accessible language. Often a person will go on the website and read the law, and there's a bunch of legalese and hard to understand wording and means nothing to them. So the idea here is that we want to be simple and say this law has the objective of discussing this subject. When the project is ongoing, they will say the author, the drafter, when proposing this bill, wants to do this, this, and that. It's very simple. It's natural. What's the goal here? Increase transparency. Improve the relationship between citizens to the legislative power. Another action that we're going to take is the IA.LES automation. It's a bunch of tasks that we're going to put into place, implement, so that we are able to remove and reduce repetitive tasks, make the internal workflows improve, enhancing administrative decision making. And we've been using different types of tools to elaborate this. We've been integrating with other systems, with human resources. We're trying to integrate it to WhatsApp so that a person can be able to open a process through WhatsApp, for example, using AI with the objective of making the internal processes go faster. The strategy of the committee is this: define priorities, considering our citizens and our personnel inside, public servants and state representatives. The importance of governance in this, within the legislative power, needs to be treated with a lot of responsibility. AI needs to be treated with a lot of responsibility so that we don't have issues. So that we don't have problems with information that is not trustworthy, information that doesn't represent reality. IA.LES, AI, will accelerate repetitive and high-volume tasks, organize in large volumes and legislative information, expand analysis, facilitate citizens' access to Parliament, and support civil servants. AI will not substitute political decision-making. We know the limits. If Parliament wants to approve a bill that is unconstitutional, it will, because they have autonomy for this. Democracy has ways and means of remediate a law that might have been approved in an unconstitutional way. The executive can veto, the Supreme, the courts might veto. There are ways of doing this. And I'm saying this because AI will not change political decision-making. If a state representative wants to do something, he will make it happen. It will not allow. It would not be allowed to do institutional validation. This belongs to the Assembly. Ethical responsibility also always belongs to people. And we're being really careful to avoid biases so that it can deliver in controlled way so that things don't happen like this. This is information from last night, a new risk for digital justice. This was published yesterday in Globo's website. And the headline says, procedural documents may contain hidden commands capable of attempting to manipulate AI systems. A lawyer went in with a recourse and put in a command for AI to create a bias and attempt to manipulate the system. So she put in a command to her recourse in very small letters and in white, using the color white, so you would look at the text and you wouldn't see the command that she implicitly put in there. But in the system, they could, but they were able to find out. They had this control of what was going on, and this lawyer was punished for doing this. But see how risky this can be. In the legal systems, in the legislative, being careful, thinking of governance, of ethics, is exponential. We need to be worried about this. We need to make sure AI is used responsibly, with safety, so that it's not biased. And this is what the committee is working towards. We're going to treat AI in this way here, and that's what we wanted to share with you. Technology needs to be in service of democracy, transparency, and citizenship. To continue, I wanted to share some of the participations we'll have in our panel. Carlos Eduardo Casa Grande will participate, Patricia Isabel, a legislative analyst, and we're going to show you how we've been putting AI to work here. And last but not least, our Director of Information Technology will speak on a more technical level of what's going on behind the scenes of these tools that we're using. I finish up with this message that is not only for our international guests and speakers and other state representatives from other parts of Brazil, but here in the Assembly, technology does not come to substitute people. It comes to serve better people. That is our commitment. Thank you so much. I would now like to invite the General Secretary, our dear friend, Carlos Eduardo Casa Grande, Secretary General of the Board. He will discuss some of the platforms we've been using and how we've been putting them to work here at the Assembly. The floor is yours. For those who are used to seeing me at the left of this table in this parliament and plenary, I rarely come to this place to speak to my colleagues or guests. But for me, it isn't strange to be up here because I spend a lot of time at this assembly. I've been working here since 1984. I don't want to talk too much about myself or the nostalgia, but it is important to say that this journey, what has been filled with challenges faced, Marcos and I, for us to implement this technology in service of the legislative workings and the supervision of it, which are our constitutional roles as legislative power. There were a lot of challenges on the way. Let's talk about our history and actions that we've adopted and tools that we were able to implement in this parliament. Before that, I just wanted to greet Igor Albuquerque, my friend. He's the General Secretary of the Assembly in Sergipe, and he is my president at the Collegiate of General Secretaries and Legislative Assemblies around Brazil. Also my colleagues from Brazil, from Minas, Pará, thank you so much. Also, Danilo has just arrived. Welcome to our assembly today. He's a noble state representative. He's a reference for us in the Senate. We talked a lot about AI being applied to the public and Parliament. So I want to talk more now, so it's not too repetitive, and I don't want to say the same things that our friends have said. I'm going to focus a bit more on our journey. The path we walked to reach where we are today. It wasn't easy, but I don't mean to prolong myself or be nostalgic. We had to go through this experience and face challenges to reach where we are today. This assembly was one of the first ones to have this electronic panel connected to a system of presence and voting registration. This not only made the process faster to this deliberation and voting, which is one of our functions here, but it also brought safety. It legalized the process, and I'll tell you a story about this soon. And it also gave us better management of the information and what we decide, the decisions made by the parliaments in this plenary. With the system that we had before, it was a manual system where people would just take a note of who was present and who was not present. And sometimes we also had the option of present, not present, or L, which is when you were not present, but you had an excuse for it. The manipulation of the system, the malicious manipulation of the system caused between 2004 and 2006 dozens of different lawsuits against state representatives that were able to do what only God can do, which is to be omnipresent, be in more than one places at once. At a point where a state representative could be present here, but at the same time be traveling in the northeast or south of the country at the same day, same time. How? So in 2004, we were notified. People were asking us, how are you controlling this? And this was a moment of being alert, and we decided to anticipate ourselves and implement a rule. This is part of our internal regimen, making it a norm to be present. And if you are not, you have it discounted from your salary, and we would publish this information for the means of transparency. So monthly this will be published and made available to the public. This gave us safety, credibility to our assembly in the eyes of the other assessing organs. We had already tried to do some of this before, but what happened in 2004 forced us to take action. So in 2008, February, our coordinator, Luciano, he's here, he's wearing glasses. He's the coordinator of this electronic panel. He takes care of everything, taking attendance, voting, audio. He helps the different representatives and their teams. He also has his own team, everything that's happening live during sessions. Congressmen or congresswomen, through the use of a PIN and biometrics, he will say if he wants to speak or not in the session, and he will also vote electronically and register his presence or not electronically. So we've been using this for almost 20 years. But this was a slow path. You know, we had been trying to plant the seed since 2005. We put a projector that would put a screen up here. Why? Some might have said, this is nothing. Why do this? But it was important so that the people here would start to get used to technology, to make the attendance a more visible public thing so that they could, you know, feel shame at not being present. So through slow steps, we were able to overcome the resistance of the staff of technology so that we reached this moment right now, which is having AI auxiliate us in this process. This panel also had new versions, but the first one arrived in 2008. In 2018, we were able to implement the digital IA.LES. This system, there was already a digital system in many other assemblies. Sometimes they were using free systems, or the assembly's internal teams developed something. We also developed our own systems. Since 1992, Aquino and I would develop our own systems, and Aquino would code in COBOL at the time. That's how old he was. So we've improved a lot. But this system in practice was only for this temporary panel that we would show. But it was also a way of getting public servants used to the technology, to a future where everything would one day be digital. So for a long time, people were taking care of this manually, and this whole journey prepared our parliamentaries and state representatives to get used to letting go of paper and pen and migrate into the digital world. For a long time, digital signatures have been recognized in Brazil. So in 2003, we wanted to implement this, the use of this type of signature in Brazil. But it isn't easy to implement this type of thing for people who are used to paper, of signing by hands. So everything required us preparation that would culminate into a feeling of safety and acceptance of technology without causing too much disruption. Nobody here wanted to abruptly implement a new tool that would cause everybody to freak out and have to figure out a way to adapt and figure out how to use it. It was all done slowly, and often sometimes it would work better and not as well, but it all culminated into what you see today. Everything is 100% digital. We have a panel, electronic voting. So we were taking little baby steps. At each stage, we would move on to the next. And the next stage was the virtualization of our sessions and parliamentary committee meetings.
It was a tool that came because of the pandemic of COVID. But we had some rehearsals before because it didn't scare the parliament members. And that's the reason we started having virtual meetings. The House of Representatives started and the Assembly did it in sequence. And some news arrived, and Aquino and Mr. President, they said before that we had the acceptance of the disclosure of all those proposals and documents only by the legislative process system. We created it by necessity, by urgency, because of the pandemics, but we didn't have to publish that in the official gazette. We adapted our internal regiment, the members of the parliament did it, for the disclosing of the legislative acts that is mandatory according to our constitution, was accepted, being available in our portal at IA.LES Digital, our system. So it was something that the virtualization brought, and the pandemics accelerated the process. So we adapted our internal regiment for that to be, for some things to be modernized. And last but not least, IA.LES, and Marcos said, Marquinhos, that's his nickname, I call it my dear friend Marcos. This is one of the latest tools that we will implement today. He mentioned this. I want to come here. Okay. So he talked about the IA.LES Play. Just one more minute. Okay, I'll conclude my speech. So the world is struggling at modernizing some sectors that are considered obsolete. We didn't have that problem. Our problem was we need to seize this opportunity and get all the stable public servants, the effective members of our staff, for them to do the everyday tasks. And technology will not take them away. We modernized the function of old servants, and I'll have a new name. I coined a new name, and I'll tell them. The stenographer. Now they're just analyzing the history, the speech. So now the stenographers will use AI. So we developed a system that will be presented that aggregates audio, video, and speech. And the old stenographers that are today speech analysts will manage and feed the whole system and control a very similar function they had analogically using paper and pen. But we had to adapt because we do not want the future to come and say, why do you need stenographers? No, they are working with AI. So they will transform videos with audio and grant that the transcription of those videos are like reliable, with credibility, and to be legalized and accepted, and manage everything the member of the parliament says in time and history, contextualizing that speech to the topic and to the time, to the context, the external context in the state and in the world. So IA.LES explained, I tested yesterday. Marquinhos said yesterday, an assistant of the presidency came talk to me and said, what is this project? Why did he ask that? Can you please share the screenshots? First, the one. No, that's not the one. Yeah, the next one. Okay, this is the one. So that was one of the bills, and I did it by my mobile So let me get closer just for you to, you can see that for us to implement that Alice explained, we didn't have that field of AI, like summary, explanatory summary. What does it do? It's wonderful. So I had to work a lot to transform the summaries of the bills in a way that the one that if somebody was reading that, the summaries, they have to understand. But it was so hard because we needed to read many pages about the projects, about the justification of the projects. But with this tool that is being launched today, AI produces a very reliable summary to talk what that bill is talking about. So there you can see the regular bill, text of the bill, but AI did that, did the summary. So it encompasses everything that that bill draft wants to do to become a law in the state. I reviewed that. It works really well. Many times members of the Parliament say, but that draft is not connected to the bill, but this tool now is automated. So if you don't write a good summary, the tool will do that for you with review. It's audited, reviewed, then validated for us to disclose to the public. Move to the next screenshot. What does the author of the bill says? This was a project from the governor of the state. What was the justification of the governor? It has been helping a lot because 30% of the legislation that is filed here, the summary is a brief text that says, it talks about the autism spectrum. It talks about the census of the public servants in the state of Espírito Santo. So the tool now scans the text, scans the justification of the author, then interprets and brings it really well, in a really well written way, the result for everyone that is checking and consulting our digital system in the State Assembly. What I'm doing is that those tools are not replacing any servant. I didn't lose any servant. Now, technology didn't replace anyone. Now, what I stimulate here is like, please use the tools, interact with the tools, use them in your favor for the tools to do the repetitive actions that you would do. And now you have time to research and do other tasks that rely more on human beings and less on repetition, because this the AI can deliver. So we're going to work a lot today and tomorrow, and I thank you for your attention and attendance, and let's move on. Thank you. Thank you, Casa Grande. So moving on, I'd like to invite Patricia Isabel to talk about the automation processes with AI in this People Management Secretariat. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you to talk a little about the automation processes of the artificial intelligence when it comes to the People Management Secretariat here. So we talked that the transformation in our everyday life is what we want to share with you. He talks not only about processes, but it's a journey about people, processes, and purpose. How the Assembly stopped using paper and now is using AI. So I'd like to start by saying that I can't not to highlight, and I'm representing Amanda and representing the human resources, I have to highlight and emphasize that digital transformation first starts with people. So every time we observe, and we've been hearing a lot, that artificial intelligence doesn't come to replace people, just to improve their effort. So we see that this journey, since we came out from the physical paper to arrive at this moment with automation, we put the servant as a protagonist, because it's necessary for people to buy the idea, to get involved, to criticize, suggest improvements for us to make it even better. And we want to show you this journey. So we didn't pass through electronic processes in a brief moment. It's a process that we've been building throughout the years, and we're moving beyond, and I'd like to show you. So these slides are not behaving well. Okay. So our biggest challenge here, I moved a little the acts and the creation in 2018, IA.LES Digital in 2019, when the electronic processes actually arrived in human resources. Just to show you that the main challenge was culture. And I'm not going to escape from nostalgia, as Casa Grande said, because this is part of our area. When we see that people need to feel safe in what they do. So what was to have a digital process? It was to learn a new technology, to go explore uncharted territory. So the main challenge was cultural. So we were attached to the physical process. We were we had a bunch of paper, and we would file and stamp. So to bring the digital process without looking at the improvements that it would bring, it caused fear. And every change does the same. So when the personal computer arrived in the digital process, every big change comes with caution and some fear. So the acts, as we said, in 2019, when the processes for the administrative life of the servants became electronic. At the beginning, what was the electronic process to us? It was just exchanging paper for screens. So we had this short-sighted vision about the benefits that it would bring. The idea was to reduce paper consumption. We didn't need big file cabinets, electronic devices. We had a double journey of work. We had to check the papers and then go to computers and check the electronic processes. After that, we started with the attendance project, and we had this resistance. Like, what does it change? How was the attendance process, the clock in, clock out? We had some sheets of paper. The heads stamped. So what changed? Everybody was like clocking in, signing paper, and it was digitalized, scanned, and we stopped using paper, but the HR had to double check physical documents and electronic documents. So this is how it began, but why it's important for you to understand and to see. because we got to know through this process the bureaucracy behind it and how we could improve that. So we implemented from the simplest to the most complex, because we believe that consolidating this digital culture was important for the members of the staff that actually handled this, and the ones that were consulting these processes. And so we started to understand those processes by scanning them, digitalizing them, and understanding that the hand labor tasks, they were not that manual anymore. We would have more lean and agile and more transparent, and then people could check their processes wherever they are. So we named some projects with the attendance project, but there are some other processes that we could help. Initially, it was like getting the paper we had and scanning them, digitalizing them. Then we moved to a different process. We know that many institutions are way advanced in this electronic world, but there are some others that are not. I was talking to a person that said that they were implementing that. So it's very important for you to get to know that and help your process. We have a protocol sector. So every MP office that wanted that, we got there, we had a folder, we created a protocol, addressed that to the presidency, that forwarded that to HR to analyze the act, then return it to the president office for signing, and submit it to the official gazette to be published. So it all depended on paper and many links, many sectors, and we had a deadline of like 3 to 4 days to do that. Today, with the electronic process, the member of the parliament can open that on their mobile phone, so this process is submitted to the presidency for analysis, and then to the HR coordination. We assess, analyze that. Within that process, the act is automatically generated. It's submitted to the presidency and submitted to the official gazette for signature. It takes less than 10 minutes for this activity to be concluded. So we reduced work, time, rework. So this document is generated automatically. It doesn't incur in common mistakes. So we used to submit that by email to the official gazette, and today it's all automatic. It's not only technology, but it's institutional transformation, because it saves time and gets the best out of the public servant at their full capacity, not only for simple bureaucratic tasks. So we did that with allowances, and the state law that regulates that allows 6 absences per year. So there are days off for them to take care of personal things and run their errands. So you can't have more than 1 leave per month and more than 6 per year, and we cannot have an absence unjustified. So the servant can start this process by their mobile phones. The system validates all the conditions, the requirements, the amount of absences per year, of leaves, and it can file this process, and it's launched directly into their personal profile. It's quicker, without any analysis, without any waiting period, and it facilitates the access of the servant to their profile here, to their HR file, Another advancement was into the vacation process, the annual vacation, the holidays of the servant. We opened within the electronic process. We had to open the process, attach an Excel spreadsheet to every sector, and they had to file that, to fill out the spreadsheet, and we analyze it if it were possible. Now the sector opens their schedule of vacation, and it has all the servants with their allowed period for vacation, and it generates an ordinance, an automatic ordinance. HR only supervises that and submit to publication for the official gazette. So it's a way more agile process, and we diminish the mistakes.
These changes may seem simple to outsiders, but it changes completely the routine of public servants who work each day with this information. After this, we did an annual re-registration. This is also a legal requirement. Employees must update their information annually. And now we do this in a much more simplified, easier way. They can do it through their phones at any moment. They just need to attach one ID. This is also a requirement from the law. And there are questions where the public servant will answer. If there were no changes, he just, in less than 2 minutes, he might finish the procedure. And we also added WhatsApp to the process. So some of these processes are more complex because you might need to correct a document after HR analyzes everything. So at each moment that the processes changes, they will receive communications, follow-ups, with updates on what needs to happen, if there are adjustments necessary, and at the end, he receives a message saying that everything has concluded and it's okay. This interaction of the server with the system is much better. It's just more transparency, real-time tracking. Now, in our last process, we have a marriage leave, which is also one of the rights that public servants have. They have the right of 8 days off. And we are using AI in this workflow process. The public servant will use their phone to open the process, attach the marriage certificate. AI will validate all the data. He doesn't have to fill in anything. AI will analyze the document, check that it is really a marriage certificate, a legal document. If the person who is opening the process is the one is compatible with the information in the marriage certificate, they will calculate how many days since they got married to when the leave will begin. They will be notified on WhatsApp that his leave has been approved, and it will let him know that he needs to register his attendance and let his boss know about this. And the information will then go to their own little file folder. The process does not require any kind of human intervention. It goes through by itself. HR will just double check that it's okay and finish the process. Here we notice how powerful AI is when applied to a well-designed process where we've considered all possibilities. We want to finish up by saying, and this, I know this is something that everybody has said, AI does not substitute our personnel. We get together, we discuss our processes, and we talk about what we can improve, how our personnel can really contribute, how they can operationalize. Their involvement in the processes is fundamental, important, but we just want to facilitate the process. But this critical analysis, active listening, it's very important so that our processes really work and are successful. and then we can free up effectively these people from repetitive bureaucratic activities, and they can focus on things where their contribution will be better and they can better improve processes. These are some of our results. Our processes are 100% online, electronic. Nominations can be concluded in less than 10 minutes. Appointments can be finished in 10 minutes. Registration updates 2 minutes. And we even have processes with 0 human intervention, just a validation of information. The emphasis that we give to AI and the increase and growth of technology is that the people are the protagonists of the story. This change of the assembly until this day is not just about technology, it's about the people that were brave enough to make changes, that they were patient to learn, and create public service that is faster, more transparent, and more human. Thank you to all of you here, all the public servants that have worked hard on this. We believe that culture is built on our embracing humanity. We work with public servants that are a bit older, those that are a bit that have tenure, and others that have temporary contracts. The realities are different, and understanding these differences and the histories of these public servants is important in the process. It's important for us to recognize the value of each person and helping build these processes that will become electronic in the future, and this will come back to us as a benefit, and not only to us, but to the citizens that will have faster, more efficient services given to them. In the future, we want to continuously improve, always remembering that our personnel are the protagonists and AI is an ally. Our deliverables are not in the future, they're along the way. We are walking this path each day, and we each day think about what we can improve. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Patricia. And now our IT director will talk to us, Grimaldo. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Grimaldo Cruz. I'm a director of IT here at the Assembly. I'm a tenure employee, 15 years now. I would like to thank all of you for being present here and the opportunity to speak to you. I also want to thank my team and all the public servants that have been working with me, alongside me. My presentation will be short. We're tight on time. But I wanted to give you a bit more of a technical perspective of the process. Of course, I want to emphasize that technology is not everything, but we do need to talk about technology because it is her that is behind all these actions that we are able to take. It's not a substitute for people, but it's important as well. A brief summary on the hierarchy of this assembly. We have 2 directories. People from other states asked me why, and I wanted to open up and let everybody know. Here at the assembly, we have an innovation directory, innovation, transparency, and special projects. This is Marcos Aquino's directory, and we have a separate directory which is at the same level of power, which is the IT directory. Our job is to sustain all these projects that require technology. So Marco's directory brings in projects, and we give them the technological infrastructural support to make it happen. We walk together, hand in hand in this journey. For us to talk about the IA.LES program, we need to, first of all, discuss some different concepts. These are fundamental, basic concepts that situate and contextualize the IA.LES program. This program has some initial projects that have already been discussed as priorities. I'll touch on that a bit later. And these programs will give benefit to the personnel here and also society. And there are some concepts and abbreviations that are used behind these programs that are very common in the technical world, but I understand not everybody here is a specialist, so I will clear that up for you. We often hear about this, but we don't really have deep knowledge. So briefly, I will explain some concepts. Just the pillars. The first one, sorry, I'm having a bit of a delay. API as a concept, Application Programming Interface. I'm sorry if you are a specialist, and I know this is basic, but this is for those that really don't know. As Patricia Isabel said recently, focusing on HR, we've had a lot of advances with integration, different processes for taking leaves and vacations where the system can do everything by itself automatically. For this to happen, we need an interaction between systems. At the assembly, we have an electronic processing system which needs to obtain, work, and input data from the HR system. So this communication happens through API, which is a standardized communication mechanisms to define data exchange. They will define how systems communicate, which data can be sent, which responses will be returned, and which rules must be followed. This is the initial concept of an API. A lot of people say this all the time, and now we know what it is. Now, AI as a whole, we have the LLM concept, large language model. When we talk about cloud, ChatGPT, Gemini, this is what we're discussing. This is an artificial intelligence model trained to understand and generate natural language at scale. So these are abbreviations that you will hear during the event, and I would like people to have this knowledge and understand so that we are able to level and everybody be on the same page. Next week, we're going to have a training course, in fact, to make sure that everybody gets this information and so that we can discuss starting from the same place. The LLM is a concept and an intelligence model. What they do is that they learn semantic patterns, a lot of large volumes of data. They read it, interpret, and give it back to the user. A very important concept, especially in the corporate world, is the RAG, R-A-G, Retrieval Augmented Generation. Without this, it would be very complex in institutions to use AI. Why? In a normal LLM, ChatGPT or any kind of AI tool, you don't have predefined limits to what you're doing. You don't know where information has come from or how far it might go to get that information. It's online, it can be anywhere. It often hallucinates, gives you wrong information, divergent information. You don't have control over this. Of course, we're talking about the common user using this at home. When you are in a corporate environment, like in a legislative assembly, for example, you cannot run the risk of having such errors. So you need to create an AI architecture that will combine two components, information retrieval and response generated by LLM. So this will allow us to use LLM, but they will answer based on specific information. We're going to define a scope for how far it can work for the search. This is what Casa Grande mentioned earlier as well. The IA.LES GPT It's a curated GPT, so we're using data that's internal to create responses. So listen, AI, you're only going to work within the scope of what we're defining. From here, the curating process begins, and you are able to limit the scope of this search and the work being done. LLM by itself is open to general research. With RAG architecture, you are able to use institutional-based documents, and it will learn, it's going to learn from more than just conversations, but they are also capable of doing vector-based research and other ways of learning. Another important concept is BPM, Business Process Management. When this is applied into different platforms, which is what we've been using here, it allows us to automate management. So this is possible within the concept of BPM, is a management and technology discipline focused on modeling, automation, execution, and monitoring continuous improvement of organizational processes. The objective is to transform activities and workflows into standardized processes. It is this that allows us to take actions like what Patricia exemplified that happens in HR, automate simple tasks and processes, and AI can add to this process, allowing us to interpret the document, to do analysis, identify the user, this summary of information, the elaboration of a process that will be used alongside BPM. I said all this to explain that the synergy that exists between these different tools is the base of our program, IA.LES. It's a cohesive synergy that orchestrates and controls the flow. BPM, RAG defines scope and context, and LLM will interpret, think, and give back to the user the results that is expected. This set of tools is the basis of our IA.LES program. Beyond the technology basis we just discussed, it's important to say that the whole program, and it's important to always remind people of this, because I know a lot of people are scared of adopting these tools and what's going to happen, who's going to manage what, but we are working with control, management of access, user profiles. We are in compliance with the Brazilian General Data Protection Law, auditing everything that has been added and registered will be tracked. We'll have traceability. We'll know what was added, was put in by a human or AI. We'll have protection, anonymization. This is very important nowadays for sensitive data. We need to be careful. And ethics, which is the responsible use of AI, also with human validation, which is mandatory. I know we're short on time, so I just wanted to quickly talk to you about our projects. Just connecting what we've said to the projects. So this initial delivery is preliminary. We're going to do others in the future, but initially we're talking about IA.LES Play, which is a platform that will receive a video of a parliament session. It will analyze the video, segment it into short text, and find the semantic correspondence and transcribe. So tomorrow you can do a search, for example, what did Grimaldo say about RAG? The tool will be able to find a specific moment of the recording, will give you the clip that you want and the transcribed parts of what the speaker said. So this will really make people's lives easier. They won't have to watch the whole session to find out some information, for example. And we used to have this will also make the life of video editors and our tech teams easier as well. will have a very dynamic way to search and access information. Our next products, the IA.LES GPT, is not just a robo-assistant. It's an ecosystem of assistants. We're going to have many assistants, initially working within the internal regimen's curation. It will already be available to be consulted, and the objective is to have this regimen working within the RAG methodology. The scope will be limited. It won't hallucinate. It won't invent information. So the public servant will be able to dynamically search for information and figure out what can and cannot happen. He'll be able to give information that was limited to our internal specialized information. That's the intention of this guy. Here we have other concepts of LLM and RAG because of the scope, and LLM because you're interpreting the question and giving them back a response.
IA.LES explained, Casa Grande has explained before. Let me just mention that it also uses RAG mechanisms and LLM. It translates and summarizes the text and delivers to the citizen in a humanized way. So a summary that says, alters the item 3 of law number X. A layperson doesn't understand that, so AI looks for the text of the bill, shows the citizen, summarizes that, and makes it more understandable for the citizen. So it uses RAG and LLM for that. And IA.LES automation is an automation project, not simple automation, because we have been using automation since the iteration 2 and 3 of IA.LES Digital. But what we've been doing now is to insert AI in the automation, building that initial link, BPM, LLM, and RAG. The intention is to enable the citizen to access, or to the servant to access, oh, I need a leave of absence. So the system will answer, yes, you can do it, you can't, it's all right. It opens the procedure and gives you a straight feedback. So it reduces the number of servants involved in that process, because it's just bureaucracy. The idea is I want to improve your capacity and to give you more time, because you're specialists, experts. We want to take you out of the bureaucracy, the repetitive actions. Let AI solve that. I want you to have time to have a specialized service of interpretation, analysis, management, and making that your capacity is well served, because the taxpayers will pay our salaries to do qualified work. So to wrap this up, a short brief of infrastructure. All the projects are in a cloud environment. It was an initial decision to increase the initial scale of that. We had some urgency to deliver that, to deliver that to the population. So in this first moment, people are curious. So where is that? Is on premise? Is in an internal server in the house? What was the investment? So this initial solution is in the cloud, accessible throughout the world, but we are studying the feasibility, the technical and the financial feasibility to bring part of this processing in-house, because you increase the possibilities. You can start testing internally and simulating that before paying externally. So we are studying and checking the autonomy we have. So guys, this is what I wanted to say. Thank you for attending this event.